Mr. Duffy. Welcome to chemistry. Today is going to be our first lesson in a unit 3 of electrons. Now, in this unit, we're going to be mostly focusing on where the electrons are located in an atom, again, as they're moving around the nucleus. But today's lesson is really going to be talking about what happens when atoms gain or lose electrons. What happens to them? So, this topic is about ions. So, let's go ahead and get started. So if we remember back to last unit, the individual who discovered the electron in the first place was a man called J.J. Thomson, John Joseph Thomson. And he said that all atoms must contain these negatively charged particles that he found using the cathode ray tube. So every atom has electrons. He also again said he knew that there were some positive charges as well because he knew the atoms were neutral. So again, he knew atoms were neutral, so that led to the discovery of the nucleus later on, and again, where the positive charge was located. But he also knew that not all atoms were always neutral. So that actually brings us to the topic of ions. So atoms themselves, again, can be changed by the number of protons that they contain. Isotopes from last unit we know change based on the number of neutrons. So the number of neutrons is different. They have the same number of protons, but different numbers of neutrons. And ions is a new topic that we're going to begin covering today. Ions basically, again, have the same number of protons, but they differ by the number of electrons. So atoms can become more stable when they bond with other atoms and so forth. We'll talk about bonding in a later chapter, but again, they can become more stable by gaining or losing electrons. They keep the number of protons the same. That's again not a nuclear reaction. Again, we're just changing the number of electrons. So again, they can gain or lose electrons to again become more stable when they bond with something else. So again, we call those ions. They form ions. Now, ions again are atoms that have lost or gained electrons and therefore would have a positive or negative charge because they have an imbalance in the number of protons and electrons. If they end up with having a positive charge, we call that a cation. I remember a cation as being positive because a T kind of looks like a plus sign in the word. So again, that's how I remember what is positive, what's negative. An anion is the opposite. An anion is a atom that has um, gained electrons, and so then it has a negative charge. So again, cation is positive, anion is negative. Now, basically, all that I want you to be able to do for this unit is to be able to again figure out how many protons, neutrons, and electrons something has. And we did this in the last unit as well when we again were dealing with isotopes. But the difference here is that instead of the again neutrons changing, we're talking about the electrons changing. So again, we'll end up with having a charged ion at the end of this lesson. So again, here we've got a nice table that is able to show us again lots of information at once. And basically, again, it gives us pieces of information we have to solve for what's missing. So I'm going to do the first one for us, and then I'm going to ask you to pause the video. And after you again pause the video, then you can do the other ones, and then just check to see if you're right. So the first one is number 8. We've got 8 protons, 8 neutrons, and 8 electrons. If I look on the periodic table, I find out that element 8 is oxygen. Symbol for oxygen is O, and its atomic number is 8. The number of protons and the atomic number are the same. Again, I can kind of figure that's how I figured out that it was oxygen in the first place. Its atomic mass, sorry, it really should be its mass number, is the number of protons and neutrons added together. And then again, that is the exact same thing from our last unit when we were talking about isotopes. So 8 plus 8 is 16. That adds up. Again, it's not the same number that's on the periodic table. It does not come out to be, again, that's the average atomic mass or of the atomic weight. So again, it's not the exact same thing that's on the periodic table. Just add your protons and your neutrons together. And then the final one is our charge. And this is where it's new for this chapter or for this unit. We need to see how many protons we have and how many electrons we have. In this case, we have 8 protons and 8 electrons, in which case are 8 positives and 8 negatives. Well, since 8 plus negative 8, or 8 minus 8, we could think of it that way, adds up to 0, this would not be an ion. This would be a neutrally charged atom. Okay? So again, this one works out that they're exactly the same. If they are not the same, again, you will end up with a charge. If you have more protons, you'll end up with a positive charge. If you have more electrons, you'll end up with a negative charge. And so here's where I would ask you to take a look at the next couple problems, next couple examples, and I would like you to try and fill in those boxes, or at least again, try and think about what's going on in those boxes. pause the video, and then after you figure them out, I'll show you the answers. Here are the answers for the rest of the boxes. Hopefully you were able to, again, figure out how many protons and specifically electrons. Again, I would expect that you would know how many neutrons or be able to figure that out from our previous units. So again, hopefully we're just able to figure out our number of protons and our electrons by adding and subtracting them to figure out, again, their charges. Okay? So hopefully after watching this video, I know it was really short, but hopefully after watching this video, you're able to figure out and know what an ion is. Again, how it forms a positive charge or how it forms a negative charge, and be able to figure out how many electrons are in an ion. Thank you for watching.